Good afternoon. I'm Carlos Fernandez, Policy Analyst of the Vegas Chamber. I'd like to thank you all for tuning into our conversation with U.S. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, Vegas Chamber President and CEO Maribeth Seawald, and Tom Burns from Craig and Pike. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to explain some features of this call. In order to preserve high sound quality, we'll be muting everyone on the call besides our presenters to make it easier for everyone to hear. If you'd like to ask a question, there are a few ways you can do so. If you're joining this call on the web or through the mobile app, you can ask a question by using the chat feature on the interface. We'll ask a question on your behalf. You can also ask a question by clicking the hand raise button on the interface. We'll call your name and unmute your line so that you can ask your question. Ask your question. We'll read your line so everyone on the call can hear the answer. In order to preserve time, we ask that you please keep questions brief, and we'll be taking all questions at the end of the call. And now please welcome the Vegas Chamber President and CEO, Maribeth Seawald.
Thank you so much, Carlos, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us on today's teleconference with U.S. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto regarding the CARES Act, which was recently passed by Congress and signed into law by the President. The purpose of this webinar today is hopefully to give Nevada businesses and employers guidance on what federal programs, resources, and assistance is available to you as it relates to COVID-19. I really want to impress upon everybody and to let you know that the Vegas Chamber continues to be in constant contact with leaders throughout our entire state, collaborating to find ways to support our healthcare facilities, personnel, essential services, our school systems, of course, and supply chain operations as well. And resources like those that are offered through the CARES Act, as they become available, the Vegas Chamber is going to continue doing these teleconferences and webinars to make sure that you get the latest information on things like the SBA emergency disaster loan, the payroll protection program, and any other banking and unemployment resources. Speaking of those unemployment resources, please mark your calendars for our next teleconference coming up this Monday, April 6th at 11 a.m. We're going to host a teleconference with the Department of Employment, Training and Rehabilitation, leader, as you all know, Director Dr. Tiffany Tyler Garner. So you're not going to want to miss that. She'll talk about the important guidelines regarding Nevada's unemployment benefits. So again, that's Monday, April 6th at 11 a.m. All of our webinars and teleconferences are available to you 24/7 at vegaschamber.com and the Vegas Chamber's YouTube page. Before I introduce Senator Cortez Masto, I would like to welcome Vegas Chamber Chairman, Mr. Tom Burns, President of Craig and Pike Insurance, to make a few remarks. Chairman Burns.
Thank you, Mary Beth. I appreciate it very much. We're very fortunate today to have Senator Cortez Masto addressing us and filling us in with information regarding the CARES Act. CARES Act is one of the largest stimulus packages in the history of the United States, and in these uncertain times, I think it's going to provide some financial confidence for small business and employers in the state of Nevada. Senator Cortez Masto is a lifelong Nevadan. She attended Clark High School as well as the University of Nevada and is known for public service. She has served 8 years as the Attorney General for the state of Nevada, as well as serving currently as a U.S. Senator. We're very fortunate to have her, very grateful for her time. And so, Mary Beth, I'll toss it back to you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Senator Cortez Masto, it is my honor to have you today, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Mary Beth. Thank you to Chairman Burns, and most importantly, thank you to the Chamber, because you have been so instrumental in helping us identify what we needed to do at the federal level to support our business community, particularly in this legislation and other work that we have been doing long term. So thank you. Thank you for that collaboration. Let me just say, for those folks who are on the call, one thing I want to leave you with is please know that our entire delegation has and will continue to work together. We collaborate on a regular basis on how we can advocate on behalf of Nevadans, our businesses, how we can make sure we're doing everything we can to pass legislation that helps our businesses here in the state of Nevada. We work closely right now during this pandemic. We've been working closely with Governor Sisolak and his office. In fact, we are on regular weekly calls with them. We're going to do another one today. The other thing that is important, this last package, so this is a third of 3 packages that we worked on at the federal level. The first package, we allocated about $8.2 billion. Of that $8.3 billion, a part of that went to the SBA for disaster recovery relief loans. There was about $1 billion in loan subsidies that came out of that. My understanding is about 20 million came into the state of Nevada. Those are the first loans that you heard about that were the up to 2 million with an interest rate of about 2.75. And then Senator Menendez and I actually introduced legislation to hopefully get it passed so that those are zero interest loans. But that was the first package. Second package was a coronavirus response act that we passed. That was to guarantee free coronavirus testing. That looked at other ways that we can provide emergency grants to states. And we looked at also food assistance and expanding food assistance. This third package, which is the CARES Act, that's what we're going to talk about now. Our focus with this one was really on workers and businesses, particularly our small businesses who were having to shut their doors and during this pandemic crisis. The goal here was to keep them liquid. Whatever we could do to ensure that they have the liquidity they need once we get through this pandemic and we open our doors, we can rebound that much quicker. So that was the focus of this package. And my goal now, and I think Jackie Rosen and all of our delegation, our goal is to make sure now you are aware of what's available to you and how you can access it. That's why I have put out a disaster resource guide. We're putting out one-pagers on FAQs to help any of our businesses that need to seek this assistance. Jackie and I work closely together on this. Our teams do. We share information. You can go to our websites. If you have any question about anything that is in this package or how you can access some of these funds or what your needs are, please reach out to my office or Jackie's office and just let us know also what you're hearing and if there are any barriers. One final thing, let me just say this. The intent of Congress is to get this money out quickly. As we allocated this money and appropriated it, now the administration has to actually distribute the funds. We try to utilize existing programs that could get the money in there quickly, but we also have to rely on the federal government now to issue guidelines or regulations to distribute these funds. I will say I'm the first to tell you that some of these guidelines and regulations are going to have additional barriers. That was not the intent of Congress. So the delegation is pushing back along with all members of Congress to say, no, you've got to suspend some of these barriers or the concerns that we have so that the money gets out quicker. I say that to all of you because if you are seeing some of those barriers or have some of those concerns, please let us know immediately so that we can be on at a federal level and pushing back and demanding that some of these agencies release these funds much quicker. So thank you for letting me join you, and I look forward to the questions.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Senator. And on behalf of all Nevadans, we thank you so much for your leadership on the CARES Act. Our state is so fortunate to have such a strong leader looking out for the residents of Nevada. So we thank you again. Thank you. We do have some questions, and they're actually pouring in now. Okay. The banks in Nevada, this is the first one, the banks in Nevada, Nevada State Bank, Wells Fargo, other banks, are all using, this question says, all using different criteria for applying for SBA PPP monies. Can you help with making this access easier?
Yes, so that's what we're doing. So this is an example, perfect example of what we said. So the PPP money, which is about $350 billion that we allocated, we wanted to get into the hands of businesses, but we had to figure out where was the best way to distribute those funds. So we worked with the private sector and the banks and the credit unions. Now Treasury had to obviously work with them to develop the guidelines and push it out. Because this is relatively new for our banks and credit unions, because they are still waiting for some of those guidelines coming in at the federal level, there is going to be some concern about how we seamlessly are able to get the information out using the same guidelines. So we are already on phone calls and conversations with Treasury on behalf of our banks to make sure that everybody's using the same guidelines, that everybody's on the same page here, and we're working through it. Today is going to be the first day that the program is going to be made available in some parts of the country. And so we're going to be monitoring this. Jackie and I have already sent letters. We're already going to be on really kind of hearing what's going on, so that our banks, and working with our banks and credit unions, so they have the information they need, so it's not as chaotic. So we will be on top of that.
Okay, excellent. The next question is about timing. The package that included the $10,000 within 72 hours, as of this morning's call with the SBA, I was told, this listener says, I was told that not to expect anything until April 15th, 2020, at a minimum. When I called yesterday, they said we should see it either today or Monday. Can you please advise on the timing?
Yeah, so here's what I have my staff doing, because we were just on a call yesterday. We're hearing different times for different pots of money, and what we're hearing at the federal level coming out of some of our federal agencies and the Treasury is different than what we're hearing on the ground when we are actually talking with Mr. Amato at the SBA and our various state agencies. So what I have my staff going through is identifying here in the state what these agencies are identifying as the timeframes, and we're putting together a matrix of the available timeframes that we are hearing at the state level, and then coordinating that at the federal level to verify that that's actually happening. So that matrix, I was just on the phone yesterday with my staff. We're putting it together. As soon as we have that available, we will push that out so that you have it. In the meantime, please know this. My staff, which is your staff for my Senate office, we are talking regularly with the various agencies here in the state of Nevada, coordinating with them on all of the issues that they're going to be dealing with, on the timing, so that we can be their advocates at a federal level with the federal agencies. So we will stay on top of that for everyone.
Okay, thank you so much. Here's the next question. Banks, it says, banks are not including benefits costs, 401k matches, etc., in the calculations, telling us this has been eliminated. Do you know if that's true?
I don't know. I know we had put some provisions in there when it comes to individuals' 401k matches, but that's a question I will follow up with. I will make sure we have an answer for you and get it back to you.
Excellent. Next question is, can a Canadian who operates a U.S. business and has U.S. employees for payroll, can they apply for the payroll protection program?
Is it, it's a Canadian, but it's a U.S. business operating here and has workers here in the United States, correct?
Yeah,
that's my understanding. Yeah, so they should be able to apply for it because it is a business here in the United States, headquartered here and incorporated here, is my understanding. If that's the case, yes. And so if there are any concerns and they're hearing differently, again, please reach out to my office.
Okay, very good. The next question is, I understand we have 8 weeks from the origin of the loan. How long will the PPP be available, if it is available for a certain time frame? And if I wait until towards the end of that time frame, will I still have 8 weeks to use that money and to account for the monies used?
Yeah, so here's the only thing I would say is I'm going to be the first to tell you this package is $2 trillion. I don't think that's going to be enough. So the PPP program has, we've allotted $350 billion. That's nationwide. So once the money's gone, it's gone. So that's the only thing I would caution, is that that it really is, there are going to be so many businesses across the country that are seeking to access those funds. My goal has been to ensure that Nevadans and Nevada businesses know about these funds as soon as possible, so you can get in that queue, because you're going to be competing with businesses across the country. And like I said, once the money's gone, it's gone. Now, with that said, I think we all realize this stimulus is not going to really help every single person, because there's just not enough money. That's why there's talk of a fourth package. And looking at, is there additional need out there? So that would be my only caution to you. We have a one-pager on our website when it comes to the PPP. Please go on that. And what I'll do is, for the chamber, as we have all of the FAQs out, the one-pagers, we will send those to you so that you can distribute those to all of the businesses so they have those.
Oh, excellent. We really appreciate that. On that note, here's another question about the dollars available. Can you define the differences between the disaster relief loan and the PPP? Should an organization apply for both? It's kind of an SBA question.
Yeah, I think it's the typical eligibility between the two of them, right? So the disaster relief loan really was limited in the money that came in, but they were interest loans that you could take out. And so it was, I think, a 3.75% interest. It was a low interest, but it still requires an interest. And you're responsible for paying it back no matter what. The PPP was a little bit different. It was a part of a loan forgiveness. And the whole goal of the payment protection program was to ensure that the businesses, when you get these loans, the goal was to help you retain your employees. And so utilizing these loans and this money to retain the salary and benefits for your employees, if you do that, then it's forgiven. The loan is going to be forgiven. And depending on so for instance, if you retain 100% of your employees, you open your doors, your loan will be forgiven. If you're able to retain 75% or 50%, your loan, the formula will then be calculated so that your loan will be forgiven up to the amount of the employees that you retained. So that was the purpose of the PPP, was to get money there to retain the employees, because at the end of the day, think about this, the goal was, as we shut our doors for businesses and we ask everybody to stay at home, the goal is to stem the spread of this coronavirus, right? We want the social distancing. We want people to stay home so we can stop the spread and address this crisis. During that time, we recognize that families and businesses are going to be struggling because there's no revenue coming in and there's no salaries coming in. And so the goal was to get money into people's pockets and into the businesses so that everybody could stay at home, but you still have revenue that will keep you whole during that period of time. And that's the goal here. And you shouldn't be penalized for it. So that's why there's the forgiveness portion of the PPP.
Okay, very good, Senator. We're getting a lot of questions still regarding confusion over whether 501c6s can apply. And we know that they cannot. As far as we know, we've been told from the SBA. Do you know if this is being clarified, or are they looking at that in the next package by any chance?
I don't know. And so I think there's still confusion around this. And so this is one area that I have staff looking at to verify and see if this was the original, because I think the original intent that we had in Congress was to include as many businesses as we possibly could. That's why I included nonprofits, and that's why we just made it much broader. My concern is what we're seeing is because of the traditional programs we have put this money through, they're using those traditional guidelines. And so we're having to really fight this fight right now with that interpretation. So this is something we're looking at. As soon as we can get the answers to you, we will let you know on this. I'm sorry for the confusion. It's just the nature of the programs that were already existing and the eligibility requirements there. As you well know, I mean, one of the concerns we have is in the SBA program, gaming companies are exempt from accessing under the traditional programs for the SBA, the 7A, if I remember correctly. And so that was not our intent. Our intent was to make it broad enough so that all businesses could take advantage of those funds, but it's being interpreted differently because that's the existing program the SBA had. And so we're in a conversation now with the attorneys to try to figure out how we can look at that interpretation, and is that correct on their part, and how we can in Congress stress our original intent here and whether it needs to be fixed. So those are things that we're just going to have to, I think, work through at this point, but we are looking at it right now.
Okay, very good. This is another question we get a lot. Can independent contractors or real estate agents, for example, apply for these funds?
Yeah, so my aunt is a realtor, and we were just talking about this here in town. So yes, independent contractors, yes, absolutely. Realtors should be able to as well. I have, again, this is an area we're looking at. The intent was any individual worker who was impacted because of the coronavirus should either be able to access not the small business loans, but also remember, we have the broader unemployment insurance program. And that whole intent of the uninsurance and program, we broadened it so that anybody, whether you're a part-time worker, independent contractor, you're a gig economy worker, you can access those funds. And those funds were enable you to get 100% of your salary for a 4-month period. And so there's a combination of things that are available for folks depending on where you are in your business and what it looks like. So that's why I say there's so much involved with this COVID-3 or this CARES Act, and it might be a little confusing, but we were trying to get as much money to individuals as possible. So reach out to our office. We'll get you the FAQs. If you still have questions after getting those FAQs, like I said, let us know about it. But the intent was if it doesn't fall under the SBA loans that you should be available, then you should be able to get your full salary and benefits and compensation under the broadened unemployment insurance program that we created.
Okay, excellent. We're getting a couple of folks asking about the actual website to get that one pager you were talking about a few minutes ago.
Yeah, it's website? Sure. It's cortezmasto.senate.gov. And we have it's a disaster resource guide. We are updating it regularly. So we are putting this information in there. What I will do is I will make sure that we send all of these FAQs, Mary Beth, to you at the chamber, and then you can push them out to your members as well.
Okay, excellent. We really appreciate that. We have a caller, Laura Freeman, who would actually like to ask her question in person. So Laura, if you're there and ready, you can go ahead and unmute your phone and we will unmute your line. Laura Freeman. Okay. Laura, we'll try to get back to you. Let us know if you're still there and we'll try to get back to you. The next question I have here, in regards to the PPP, what if employees are already laid off? Can we bring them back to put them on the PPP?
Yes, I mean, that's the intent here. So first, if the employee's already laid off and they're accessing unemployment insurance, and the program is just getting up and running, you would have to, they would have to get off of that, and you would use this money to pay, keep them whole, their salaries and benefits. And yes, you can bring them back to do that under this. That's the whole intent here. The whole intent is so that our businesses can keep their employees, keep paying their salaries and benefits, so that when you open the doors, your employees are there and you're ready to move forward.
Okay, very good. So just to clarify, and I think you've already stated this, but I just want it to be real clear because we get this question a lot too. So to follow up on that, if an employee prefers to stay on unemployment instead of rehiring, will that affect the amount forgiven to the business?
That's a good question. That is a good question. Let me take a look at that, because that is going to be the choice ultimately at the end of the day of the worker, how they want to receive their funds. But if a small business is trying to do the right thing and wants to be able to pay them, but their worker is actually getting unemployment insurance instead, let me check on that. I will get back to you on that question.
Okay, very good. And this is the question from Laura Freeman, since seems like we're not able to get her actually on the line. She says, we are in the business of building trade show exhibits. All shows have been canceled. What we keep hearing is that we need to hire our employees back in order to have the loans forgiven, kind of along the same lines of what you've been talking about already. At the same time, we are ordered to have our business closed. How does this work? We are still having to pay our rent utilities, and insurance. And we also have not heard anything about whether this would cover insurance costs, as this is our biggest expense next to payroll. Can you please advise?
Yeah, the goal under the PPP is, yes, your business is going to stay closed. But what you would do, and to show your eligibility, is to say your business is closed, but here is your payroll, here are your employees, here is, and here's why you need this loan to cover the costs for that. Right now, and let me pull it up real quick. But that is the goal here, is so that you can keep your doors closed and keep your employees on salary. So that the PPP, the program, will actually ask specific information of that business regarding your payroll, regarding your number of employees, and that's what we have in the one pager, the Q&A sheet, to get you that information. And I just, for some reason, I can't pull it up right now in front of me.
Okay, that's all right. And just to clarify again, we get a lot of repeat questions because this is all very confusing. So we appreciate you, going through all of this and wading through the details. But just to clarify again, the question is, we can apply for the PPP and the emergency disaster relief at the same time?
Yes, yeah, because they're two different programs. And so the goal will be, again, the PPP is so that you can keep your employees and you can pay their salaries and benefits, and they're actually staying at home and your doors are closed. The small business loan, the disaster relief loan, is a little different than that. The PPP is so that you can keep your employees and be forgiven for that loan. So yes, you should be able to apply for both if needed.
Okay, perfect. And another follow-up question, given that there's not enough money in this phase 3 package for all businesses, how will those businesses who receive the money be selected?
Well, that's the goal here, right? And so that's what we're looking at, because there's only so much money nationally, and it is going through the banks to distribute those funds. Right now, I don't know if Treasury is, and this is what we're waiting for, I don't know if Treasury is limiting how much money is available for various states, or it's a first come, first serve. And so those are the questions that we still have, and waiting for those guidelines from Treasury to answer those questions.
Okay, perfect. The next question is, as CFO of a company, we are in a sort of teeter-totter phase where we might not be able to meet payroll in the near future. If we take the PPP loan and then didn't need it, what happens? Will there be a penalty for not using it? I would prefer to have it rather than not having it.
No, it would just be a traditional loan. In other words, it wouldn't be forgiven. There's no penalty. It just wouldn't be forgiven. It would be treated like any other loan that you would have an interest rate and you'd have to pay it back.
Okay, perfect. And earlier you were talking about, the CARES Act and how you're working with Senator Rosen and so forth. Can you talk a little bit about the fourth package a little bit more and clarify that and potentially a fifth package, please?
Well, yeah, let me just say right now, I don't know if a fourth package is going to happen. I can tell you that Speaker Pelosi has already started work on something, according to what she is saying, identifying additional needs that are out there, including healthcare piece of it. Minority Leader Schumer is interested, and actually we're going to be on a caucus call this afternoon regarding it. But I'm seeing and hearing that Mitch McConnell is not interested right now in a fourth package or moving forward on that. But here's the thing: part of that fourth package was also a discussion about infrastructure and how do we stimulate the economy by investing in an infrastructure package for this country. I think the administration, and what I've seen is President Trump, is interested in doing that. I think Speaker Pelosi has identified that is something she's interested in doing, and Minority Leader Schumer has said so. What I have read in the papers publicly is Mitch McConnell is not ready to go down that path yet. And so I don't know where this is going to end up. I think there is talk that third package will include a large infrastructure stimulus for the economy as well. I just don't know. I don't know what else other than the healthcare piece. I'm not sure what else would be part of it other than any gaps that we have and fixes that we need to make from this piece of legislation of individuals or businesses that were left out that we would include in that fourth package. I'd assume we would, but we still have to let this roll out to see where those gaps are.
Okay, very good. The next question comes from Chamber Member Cedric Kane. We know that the loan program will be implemented using the commercial banks. Will it also be implemented through community development financial institutions?
Ooh, no, I don't think so. And I haven't seen that. I will verify that. I think when we were having these conversations, and I remember talking with Mark Warner, who was taking the lead on, at least on the Democratic side, and helping craft this program. I think the intent was to just use the traditional banking systems that are out there. There are banks and community banks and credit unions. I don't remember them talking about that, but I will verify to see if that was incorporated into the PPP.
Okay, very good. And this next question, we all kind of feel the stress of this because there's so much overwhelming information. And I know that we have a lot of information on our website, and I know you do too, Senator. But the question is, will there be a place, or is there a place where we can find all the rules and what's available? I'm overwhelmed and not sure what I can or can't qualify for, and I don't want to miss out on things I could be benefiting from.
Yeah, so that's our goal here. That's our biggest challenge. Let me just put this in perspective. Because this is a $2 trillion package, the money is going to be distributed through various federal agencies. We're going to be dealing with the Treasury, we're going to be dealing with Secretary of the Labor Department, we're going to be dealing with the Agricultural Department, and various programs within all of those agencies are already exist through our state, right? So State Department of Employment, Training, Rehabilitation will deal with unemployment insurance. Small Business Association will deal with a piece that they have. The commercial banks will deal with a piece that they have. So there are a lot of moving pieces, and you're absolutely right. The intent for my office and Jackie's is to give you one resource where you can access all of that information. That is why I have the resource guide out there, so that it takes all of this, really kind of puts it down into one document that you can go through so you know what is available to you. That's why my promise to the Chamber is we will get you the resource guide. We will get you the various one-pagers on all of these programs that have, when I say FAQs, the facts and questions that people have, the answers to those. So that you have one area to access this. That is my promise to you, and we will get it to you. What we have available today, we will get it to Mary Beth immediately.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We can't tell you how much we appreciate all your help. It's a confusing time for a lot of folks. We have a caller on the line, Jennifer Isom. She wants to ask her question live. Jennifer, if you can unmute your line, I think we're ready to take your call. Jennifer, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, Jennifer, I can hear you. This is
Go
Catherine.
ahead with your question.
All righty, wonderful. I know one thing with some of the stimulus packages than before is, as you have already mentioned, gig workers and sole proprietors are able to apply for both things, the EIDL loan, PPP, and employment, I believe. And my question is, well, this was what my thought was of how I was going to go about it, and I would just love your thought. I understand no double dipping. So my thought was, I am a sole proprietor, it's just me, but I want to attempt to save my business first. So I'm going to try for the EIDL, PPP. Should those fall through for me, I am then still able to apply for unemployment. Am I correct in all of that?
Yes, you should be able to still apply as a sole proprietor. If you're not successful on that small business side in getting those loans, then yes, as an independent contract, or excuse me, as a sole proprietor, you should be able to apply for the unemployment insurance as well.
Okay. Part two, just because, as you also mentioned, all these funds are going to be flying off the shelf, if you will. My understanding is apply for these various programs. If you get approved, you can deny, like, for example, if I applied for unemployment and a PPE or EIDL, and I get everything gets approved, I can say, well, thank you very much, unemployment. I'm not going to accept that because I'm choosing to accept this other program instead. Yes?
Yeah, yes, that is the goal. Okay. Obviously, we don't want a lot of double dipping because we need to make the money spread go to where it needs. And so but I'm not going to say that's going to be perfect in how it's rolled out, but that is the goal here, is that there's part of this trust as well, and part of this oversight to connect who's getting what. It's going to be very, I'll be honest with you, it's going to be very difficult. And we're looking at this now. I don't know how the federal government keeps track of all of that. So part of this is going to ensure that people are also being responsible and making sure they're being honest about what they're getting and what they don't need, so that that money goes to others in need.
Correct. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and the one thing we also didn't talk about was the rebate check, right? So there's also this one-time infusion to certain individuals based on their income that are going to get a rebate check. And so that will be just a one-time infusion. There's a lot of talk out there about it and how it's moving through it, but know that that's also going to be available to individuals as well.
Okay, very good. We have another caller on the line who would like to ask a question. David Medier, if you can we'll open up your line. If you can unmute your phone, go ahead and ask your question, David.
Hello, Senator.
Hi, David.
Hi. Thank you for your service and for all you're doing to help us out here in Nevada.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
The question I have is, I have a rental property that I have an excellent tenant, and I've forgiven rent for the month of April because she has lost her job. And so she's a great tenant. What do you do? Is there anything that I can do to apply for something to give me some relief so that I can cover expenses and other things related to the property?
Yes, there is. And yes, because we also wanted to include folks that have rental property to figure out how we could help them, because there's a lot of talk obviously about forgiveness at this point in time for rent and mortgage and the like. And so we still want people to be able to be whole. Let me track that down for you. I don't have it in front of me, but I think there is something that you should be able to apply for as a result of that. Now, let me ask you this. Is your renter able to make up the lost rent at some point in time?
Well, I don't know. She worked for the Rio, and of course, but she has children, and so I'd rather just forego until she can. Then my problem is I don't know if she understands all the things that she can apply for.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be our biggest challenge, is getting information out. So the goal here was to get the broaden the unemployment insurance for individuals like her, so that she can pay her rent, and keep doing what she needs to do because she's getting a salary. Now, I haven't even talked about, for our larger gaming properties and our larger businesses, there's whole other opportunities for them to continue to pay the salaries and benefits of their employees so that they are paying their rent. That was the goal here.
Right.
And so, but you've touched on it. Right now, the biggest challenge is how do we make everybody aware of what's available to them so they can apply for it.
Right.
And that, since we passed this legislation, I knew that was going to be the biggest challenge we had in this state. And that's why your delegation, we are all working together to get this information out however we can to share it. Literally, Jackie and I have been on conference calls with our faith-based community. We have talked with getting on the phone with veterans, with healthcare workers. I mean, we are identifying individuals where we can share information so it's available to them. We work regularly with the governor to get it to them. There's a whole pot of money that's set aside for our state and local governments. It's not enough, but it's money there that we need to now make sure that they can access. So you're right, that's going to be our biggest challenge. And that's why with your help, by us pushing this information out to all of you, you can also share it with people that you know so that we can get this word out.
I'm happy to do anything I can to help her and at the same time keep the ball rolling.
Thank you.
All right, great call. Thank you, David, for that question. Senator, this one is going back to the rebate check. What if someone's income was above the threshold amount in 2019, but they have now lost their job due to the coronavirus? Can they still get a rebate check?
So a couple of things. They can apply for unemployment insurance and they can get relief there. The rebate check is based on a couple of things. To be eligible, a couple of things. You have to have had, it's based on your 2018 or 2019 adjusted gross income level, whichever was filed last. So that's a start. There's no qualified income threshold or requirement to receive the rebate. However, the rebate amount starts phasing out above a $75,000 gross annual adjusted gross income for a single filer and $150,000 adjusted gross income for joint filers. And so there is a phase out period based on your income. We have that broken down. It's a whole formula that has been put together. We have it broken down into one of our one pagers, and we'll get that information out to you.
Okay, very good. The next question is, the owners of my practice closed the office effective today, laying off all employees. I am working on a business license and loan to reopen April 20th so I can hire all employees back to the practice. Would we be eligible for the PPP, and what benefits are available to new offices that are recreating jobs?
So if you are a business, so if I understood that, you're a business that had to close, but you want to take advantage of the PPP so you can keep your workers' salaries, get them salaries and benefits. Is that right?
Correct.
All right. So that's exactly what the PPP program is about. It is so that you can access the loan, use that money to pay the salary and benefits for your employees, but they're staying at home and you're staying at home. And then as your doors open and you keep all of those workers, that loan is forgiven. That's exactly what the program is about. If you are a brand new business, that's a good question. If you're a brand new business, would this apply to you because you're not necessarily impacted by the virus? Other than you're unable to open your doors right away. I have to check on that one to see. That one I'm not sure about.
Yeah, that's a great question. We haven't gotten that one before. Okay. Great. We can all check on that as well. So the next question is, if you are considered an essential business and remain open, can you still qualify for stimulus dollars?
Yes. If you're being impacted through revenue or you've had to let go some workers, but you still have other workers on, absolutely. Yes, you can.
Okay. Next question. If we are still open and have maintained half of our employees, are we able to use the funds for the employees who are still working and the half that are forced to stay home at this time?
Yes.
I guess technically if they're working from home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, that is the intent. I mean, the goal here is for the PPP, again, focus is the loan that you take out is to cover the costs of your employees, so that all your employees, whether they're still working or those that are staying home, but it's to cover all of their costs so that you can continue to pay their salaries. And at the end of all of this, open your doors and still have all of your employees. If you do, that loan is going to be forgiven.
Okay, very good. The next question, I received an email from Bank of America about applying for PPP funds. They are requiring that a business have a deposit and loan relationship with the bank to even apply for the loan. If a business hasn't had a loan relationship with the bank, how do they get access to these funds?
Yeah, see, this is going to drive me crazy now. These are the rules that are being set up now, and I don't know if this is the bank doing this or this is Treasury doing it, because or a combination of things happening because Treasury hasn't put out all of those guidelines. To me, that is not the intent of Congress, and those are the things that I want to hear. Those barriers that are being put up, I want my office to know about it, so that my staff can look at it, research it, and then advocate with Treasury, with this administration, with my colleagues that has to change and that should not be occurring, and get to those banks immediately to change that. That is not the intent here for this. The goal here is to get money in as quickly as possible. The money that we have set aside, that $2 trillion, that $350 billion, is to get into businesses without the traditional barriers that we have seen in the past. So that, please share that if you can, Mary Beth. However we can get that information from that individual business would be very helpful for us.
Okay, very good. You know, the Chamber does, we do our own FAQ sheets after each one of these calls. So we'll be sure to distribute that along with that very piece of information. So we'll be sure to do that for sure.
Okay. And can I say, before I forget,
now,
Mary Beth, because there's been a lot of questions on the PPP and what the money can be used for. When you take out that loan and the forgiveness, you can use that money for your payroll costs when you go to the PPP program, for payment of mortgage interest or rent, and your utility payments. That's what the criteria that has been set for the PPP program and how you spend that money.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying that. The next question is, I have a business that is considered essential and we are still open. However, our revenues are affected and normally employees would be laid off. I am keeping them on the payroll. This leads to my same payroll expense but with reduced revenue. Question is, do I make a request for a loan amount that is only the difference in loss or by the formula provided?
That's a good question too. Well, I think you are going to, I don't know. Let me think about it. I don't want to give you wrong information here. Let me have staff research that and get back to you as today.
Okay, very good. The next question says, Senator, I hope there is a fourth package. If there is a fourth package, would you support relief funding for EMS and fire departments and support those on the front lines? That question comes from Damon Schilling, a great chamber member with AMR and Medic West.
Yes, absolutely. Let me just say this. This package is woefully deficient on the healthcare piece of it and health insurance. We put money in it for what we call the Marshall Plan to shore up our health system. There's about $150 billion that was secured. $100 billion is widely available to hospitals and providers affected by this virus. But it goes to pay for the equipment for all of that. But where we are deficient through this, and there's not enough for our healthcare and frontline first responders, we have to do more. And yes, we would be looking, if there's a fourth package, that would be something we would be looking to address. Let me just say something here with respect to the equipment and the medical supplies. There's not enough, as we are hearing, from the test kits to the reagents that are necessary for testing, for the test kits, for the PPE, for the masks, for the ventilators. Why this is happening is because a combination of things are happening. Our state and our local governments are competing with other states and local governments for these supplies on the open market. That's why there's been this discussion amongst Congress and many of us saying the administration needs to invoke the Defense Production Act. What does that mean? That means that by invoking that for all of these supplies, the federal government controls the order of these supplies. In other words, takes steps in line first for ordering all of these medical supplies. That way, when the federal government gets those supplies, they can distribute them in coordination with those states and those state governors to the areas most need. That hasn't happened yet. Just today, the president did invoke the Production Act for the masks. He did it a couple of days ago for the ventilators, but it is not happening for all of the medical supplies. The reason why that is so important to happen is because you need a command and control structure to distribute, to access and control nationally the supply and demand and production of all of these medical supplies, and then the control structure to distribute them. There's no single command and control structure at the federal level that is managing all of this. And because of that, there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of competition for these medical supplies. And that's why you see the governor saying what they're saying and the challenges we're having on our front line, not just for our hospital workers, but our first responders. And think about this. I've just heard from businesses that are essential, and they have individuals delivering meals and still feeding people. They're frontline workers as well, and they're not getting this equipment, but they're necessary because we have people that are isolated that would not have meals otherwise. And so the challenge is to manage all of that, and that's still chaotic at this point in time, unfortunately. I'm hopeful that working together, we can continue to stress the need for that command and control so that we can manage the supplies that are necessary. But I am so grateful. Thank you to all of our first responders. Thank you to the companies that are out there. Thank you for what you're doing, still risking the lives of workers that are taking that risk to help others. I so appreciate it. And yes, I will continue to fight for not only the supplies, but for those businesses to keep their doors open and the revenue that they need.
Great. Thank you so much. That's just wonderful. We really appreciate your attention to that. This next question comes from another chamber member, Andrew Diss. Many businesses have business interruption insurance, but the insurance companies are rejecting claims and arguing that this pandemic and a government-ordered shutdown, they don't qualify as force majeure. Is there anything Congress is working on to address this?
Yes, so a couple of things. I just saw that today, and it's true. Insurance companies got rid of their the insurance for any type of pandemic disaster like this, so they don't have to cover it. What we have done at the federal level in this package, we actually pushed out business interruption loans that would be available to businesses. There's a couple of things for businesses to take advantage of. I sit on Senate Finance, so we were looking at how we look at the tax code to give them necessary support that they might need through relief in some of the tax code, as well as injecting additional funds. So let me just tell you, there's a whole other set of programs that are available. What we did is we actually in this bill has support for employee or worker retention credit to help maintain employees' connection to their employer. This is basically, let me pull it up real quickly. This is basically, you get tax credit for retaining your employee. And there's a breakdown for how that's available to you. We also have, hang on, let me pull it up real quick because I don't have it in front of me. There's also funding for business interruption loans that are available to individuals to ensure that they continue to be able to access those business interruption loans. Okay, here I got it. So there's the employee retention credit for employers subject to closure that's available. We also have delay of payment of employer payroll taxes. We have modified net operating losses. We also we have a modification of the credit for prior minimum tax liability of corporations. So there's a number of things that we have done to help companies so that they can take advantage of any tax credits. There's business interruption loans that are available I can go into more detail and we'll get that to you, but there's opportunities for businesses to take advantage of those loans. And if they retain their employees also, they get benefit for doing so. So those are different programs that I didn't even talk to you all about. We've been talking about the small business and PPP program. That's a whole other set of a whole other area of credit that individual businesses can take advantage of that are impacted. And we will get those to you, Mary Beth, as well.
Okay, we really appreciate your time, Senator Catherine Cortez Masto. Your expertise and your knowledge is just outstanding, and we can't tell you how much we appreciate your service. Just one last time, folks are asking for the best contacts for your office. Would you mind to give that again before we wrap up?
Absolutely. So the website is Cortez Masto at cortezmasto.senate.gov.
Okay. Perfect. Once again, we appreciate your time today. Thank you always for being such a great friend to the business community and to the Chamber in general. We just appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
All right. And thank you all for joining us on today's call. As resources and new information become available, you can, of course, always count on the Vegas Chamber to keep you informed. We appreciate the support of our Vegas Chamber members. And please know that the Vegas Chamber is here to serve you. And together, we know that we're all going to get through this. So thank you, everybody, again, and have a great weekend. Thank you, Senator. Bye-bye.
Thank you.